Hello, and I hope life is good for you today. It's been brought to my attention that if someone was to put my name, Jan Fennell, into Wikipedia, what would appear is startling information because it says studies have shown that her method, my method's Amichien bonding, is out of date. Past its sell-by date, forget it. But before somebody thinks of that, my first question has to be, what studies? Carried out by who? Where? Because we do tend to take things for granted. We do tend to accept a generalization. And if we see studies have shown, it must be right then. But you see, what we're all looking at is the effect of life on a dog living in our social human world. That's what most people are interested in when you've got dogs. You see, for me, I was so unhappy with traditional training. The heel, come, sit, stay, dog does as I say. Because, this is supposed to be a friendship. Then I was inspired. I was so lucky because I saw the original man who listens to horses, Mr. Monty Roberts, working in a round pen with a horse. He was sending signals out to the horse. The horse was signaling back. And between them, they understood each other. There was no doubt in Monty's mind what was going on, and brilliantly, the horses either. And there was no fear, pain, force, nothing. And that horse just followed him of its own free will. That's what I was looking for. So this means you've got to research. And when it comes to animals particularly, it has to be observation. And this is what most people do, observation, which is great as long as you're observing the right thing. And that's such a precious thing I got from Monty's work, because to be successful, I study success. And what he did was sit out in the Nevada desert, day in, day out, even at night time, and watch free living Mustangs. Completely separate from human beings, doing what nature had intended them to do. So there they are out there. And he started to recognize and see the patterns in their communication, in their expressions, so many things. It was just flooding into him. But he made sure that he saw this many, many times. So that's what my intention was. The reason I knew that it was impossible to study domestic dogs is because they're the ones with the problems. Before I sought this, my own dogs would pull on the lead. That's undesirable. My own dogs would jump up, often take off and not come back. There were so many things that were going on. So how can you observe what's wrong to find out what's right? I hope you're with me there, because that was a decision I had to make, which meant it was more difficult for me. But if I was determined to find out their communication system, their instincts, their drives, basically what makes a dog tick, that's what I had to do. And so when people study just dogs, observe them in the home and not understand what's going on, in the parks, just anywhere where there's a captive animal, they're getting a false impression. And then we add to that going out with an idea, preconceived idea. I want to discover this, or I want to discover that. There again is the problem. You cannot do that, because when you're studying animals in what we like to call the wild, there are a lot of rules. The rules have to be obeyed, because when there's no rules, there's chaos. These rules are in place, and when an individual species animal, like say a wolf or an elk, whatever, go along with these rules, they survive. If they don't accept the rules, they just don't survive. It's as simple as that. I knew from the very beginning that I had to look at the natural free livers. because I needed to find their truth. And I know that term is overused, but to be honest, they do what they do to survive, and they've been doing it successfully long before humans were on this planet. But canines use their communication system, they understand their rules, and that's what I needed to learn. So I went out and I started to study, well, just to watch, observe, but not think I want to see this today or I want to see that today. You have to go out there thinking, whatever comes along, I will see. To get an idea of how difficult it is to study other animals, we only need to look at people who actually do it for a living: photographers, cameramen, anybody that does documentaries or programs about the natural world. Bob Landis, who is Mr. Yellowstone when it comes to documentary making, he once told me that for him to make one 50-minute documentary will take him 300 days in a year for 3 years. That's the average. Can you just imagine? And on one occasion, I said to him, I'd love to see your cutting room floor, because he has to discard so much great stuff because the viewing public want instant now, quick, quick, quick. You know, we've got instant coffee, we've got instant, that's what we see. Nobody wants to see the truth, which is, for much of the time, they're sleeping. You know, you can be wolf watching for hours and somebody say, what are they doing now? Yeah, still sleeping. You have to put the time in. You need an open mind. You cannot go out with a preconceived notion. You have to let them show you. So you need a lot of patience. And for somebody like me, that was a challenge in the beginning, but knowing what I wanted, my intention was to find out what they do and then see if, as Monty had with horses, see if I could just make that adjustment, that tweak that made it possible for us to do the work, to work with the dog successfully, you know, to get it to be a willing partner, as Monty had done with the horse. It was all there. I just had to put in the research, and I was happy to do that. And even when I wasn't quite sure, I'd go back and back and back. So when I was going out into the field to watch, I also knew the people that understood these animals, that were with them regularly, watching from a distance. I never mean somebody who is feeding them or clearing up after them, nothing like that. People who, like me, want to understand them. And that I did. I'd already found the actual 4 areas of my Amichien bonding, which incidentally will always work as long as the human puts in their side of it, because it is 3-pronged. You've got Amichien bonding, the dog, and the person. Amichien will always work, always. It never fails. The dog will always cooperate when the human being puts Amichien into place. So it's the human. Some humans take it. My qualified dog listeners, brilliant. They follow through and teach this method, not because I say so, because they know it works. But it is only the human side that can let it down. So when it's criticised, it's by people who don't know what the process is at all. That's human nature, and we understand that. It's been like this for over 30 years for me, so there's no difference. But there is another factor here. Not only must you observe the right thing and see a behaviour repeated many times, and I had the most valuable lesson, brilliant lesson, in the Lamar Valley in Yellowstone some years ago. There was a pack at that time called the Lamar Canyon Pack, and it was led by a very, very smart female, an amazing wolf, affectionately known as 06. On this occasion, I arrived late to the wolf watching group. And on this occasion, pulled up, everybody was kind of concentrating. They got their scopes and they were panning from one side of the Lamar Valley across the road to the north, and I could hear a wolf howl. I wasn't sure what was going on, but because everybody else was involved, I didn't ask them at that point. That would be rude. But I could clearly see the pack with 06 this side, pan across the road to the north, and there was an individual, a grey wolf. Watched, and after a few moments, 06 lifted her head again, listened for the sound, and then took a whole pack away from the sound, travelling further into the Lamar Valley, abandoning that wolf that was calling. Had I not known, or had I observed this with no other knowledge, I could have so easily thought, well, they abandoned their pack members. This was actually a pup of that year, who was no more than 5 months old. So as 06 moved away with the pack, the youngster was moving away further and howling. In my heart, I thought they can't abandon their babies. But if I'd found out they could, then I'd have to accept that. This isn't Disney World, this is the real world. Anyway, Rick was there, Rick McIntyre. And when I said, she's abandoned the pup, Rick, he looked at me and said, no, this is the 3rd day running. That same pup has crossed the road and gone over there. Mum, 06, had taken the whole pack on the 2 previous days right across into the territory of another pack. Now, this is dangerous. This is risky. And wolves, in fact, all other species except humans, avoid trouble if they can. But as this was the 3rd day after 06 and the pack going, collecting pup and bringing her back, we have to look at the truth of survival of the fittest. You have to learn or die. 06 was showing her youngster consequence of her own actions. The pup had decided to go across, bad decision. Mum was now going to show her, you're on your own with that decision. Mum and the pack moved away. So we piled all our stuff back into our cars and drove and waited. And something in me was thinking, please, pup, come on, come back to Mum. So we got our scopes, we were watching 06 and the pack. They'd settled down in an area just in front of the woodlands behind. And about 20 minutes later, in she came. The pup came in, holding herself very low, respectfully, right to her mum, 06. And 06 just stood there, looked at her as if to say, you had to think about it. Good decision, girl. And the truth is, she never did it again, that pup. It was never seen again. I was there for another 2 weeks, and I can promise you, in that time, I checked in with Rick and the others. Nah, she didn't do it. You see, this is the point. When you are observing the right thing, even then, you have to be careful. You must be prepared to go the extra mile and ensure that what you think is correct. You can't take something on face value and go with it. And of course, by understanding them and what they do, I could then understand why we have so many problems for our domestic dogs living in our human world. We've basically put the wolf in the wrong place. So I would ask anybody out there to please, if you are somebody who has been part of these studies to show that my work is wrong or old-fashioned, then please get in touch with me. You can contact me via my website, and I look forward to hearing from you.